Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted at the Euros. I am not Dave, and I do have a slightly croaky voice, so I apologise for that, but Dave is skiving and we can't find him, so that's his fault. I'm with Karl. How are you doing, Karl?
I'm all right, mate, thank you. How are you? Aside from your sore throat, which I thought was put on to try and fool the listeners into believing you were indeed Dave.
Yeah. I was about to do an Irish accent, but that would have went down badly. Yeah. I'm good. Other than the voice, But I was away at the weekend shouting a lot, so that's why that's happening. But we'll get into the Euros action. We got to go through Monday's results, Karl. It was a bit of an odd day, I'd say, and it started off quite oddly because Romania beat Ukraine 3-0. These are probably, Romania especially, one of the more unknown teams in the tournament. Ukraine, we know a handful of the players from the Premier League and some big talents, but they didn't really turn up, and especially after they went 1-0 down, they just never got back into the game, and Romania were kind of comfortable after that.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed with Ukraine's response, or lack thereof, we should say. Romania, in fairness, were much, much more offensive-minded than I expected them to be. With the players that they have, their strength is really in that core centre, and we saw that came to the fore later on in the match. I mean, possession-wise, you can see their game plan is to very much set up, feet behind the ball, wait for counter-attacking opportunities. I think 29% possession is the lowest in the tournament so far, but their effort and impact and determination and the game plan as a whole to get players forward ahead of the ball when they had those counter-attacking opportunities was ridiculously good. Whether they would have continued to do that had they fallen behind, or things had gone slightly different for them in the game, unknown. But they absolutely made the most of the opportunities which were given to them, in particular by Andrei Lunin, who we'll maybe discuss a little bit more in depth. Nothing to fault them, really. Like, they were really, really good defensively. Dragusin at the back was excellent, I thought, which, considering he's not had too much game time, obviously, over the second half of the season, is very, very impressive. And a couple of banging goals as well, which is always a nice start to the day.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one especially was a lovely finish. But as you mentioned, Lunin was at fault for two of the goals and nearly conceded a corner, which would have been a perfect day for him. Yeah. We obviously seen him have such an impressive season, with Courtois being out when he got that number 1 jersey. I'm guessing you just continue to trust him, because Ukraine had Pilov or whatever his name was for I believe 25 years as the goalkeeper. Yeah. But I think you just got to trust him at this stage, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so personally. On the one hand, yes, you want to obviously put yourself in as good a position as possible to go through to the knockouts, and they have still got 2 games to do that. On the other hand, you're probably looking at this as a longer-term thing, and you mentioned that they had Piatov for about 400 years. Lunin could be their goalkeeper for a decade, to be fair. He's only really, obviously, at Real Madrid this year got his first chance to play first-team football, but that's still at a higher level than they would have been having otherwise. So I think you play him basically. He's only got a dozen international caps to his name, so keep him in goal. 25 years of age, he's coming into a really good time for a goalkeeper in theory. I think you back him and you stick with him. Otherwise, you're just going back to probably Bushan, and he's never been any good at all, to be honest. So unless they have massive faith in an athlete Trubin, who is the youngest goalkeeper they've got with them, then I don't really see massive benefit in changing him. You're going to sort of upset that balance between the centre-backs as well. I don't know. I personally would stick with him unless Trubin is excellent. And I've not seen him with Benfica this year, so I can't really say what stage of development he's at. I think it would be for the good of Lunin anyway that they stick with him. But if they are really, really absolutely against it and they think that it's desperation time for them, then obviously that's a different decision. But there were much more issues to solve, let's say, in their overall play than just two defensive errors from the keeper. Because, like, one, fine, he should have saved that the long range shot. That's absolutely the case. The first goal, although it's from his mistake, like, you do that same kick out 30 times, you probably only face a shot maybe 10, and it's probably not that good any of the other times.
Yeah, absolutely. The defence on the day was awful, and just never seemed to get into it. But it does leave Romania probably 1 foot in the knockout stages, which is impressive considering I think it's the first tournament in 24 years, if I remember correctly. How did you think they played, and was there any names that jumped out for you other than Dragusin?
I thought Ratiu at right back, the one with the blue hair, he was pretty good. I've not seen too much of him. Andrew Ratiu, so he had a really, really good game. Obviously, Dennis Mann, we do know, and he had a very impactful game, but in the way that I would have expected from him. Not super consistent with the ball at his feet, but when he's on the run and he's very quick at getting in field and so on and so forth, he's good at picking out his man. Stands you loads of work rate in addition to the really good goal. I just think that the team setup overall was probably their biggest strength. Like, everybody was working really, really hard to get behind the ball. Obviously, Nita made the odd save in goal. They had a couple of decent options off the bench who could come on and just continue adding to that work rate. But it really was the shape, the willingness to get behind the ball. Everybody knew their job. Everything that you saw is what we spoke about before the game that we were expecting to see off the ball. Like, seeding 5 in 10 in qualifying, without seeing them play, you know what they're going to be like. So that was above and beyond what I expected, but not as much as obviously the attacking side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quick word on Dragusin, because he's probably the main one for Premier League fans to keep an eye on. I mean, he did look excellent. We've not seen much of him, pretty much nothing of him at Tottenham, apart from the last couple games of the season when I think Romero was injured. He definitely looks like a player. I mean, it's an impressive young core of players, the centre-backs they've got there. I mean, Romero's probably going to get linked moves away, but you can see why they bought Dragusin, because I think he'll be ready to step up if he plays like he does for his country.
Yeah, I mean, saw him in Italy, obviously, before he signed for Spurs, and super aggressive there. It's suited the team he was playing at Genoa. Genoa.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've seen players obviously come to the international tournaments with their club and play like with their country and play like they've never seen them play with their club. So don't want to go too overboard on one appearance. And there was a few times where you can see him trying to jump ahead of the forward and potentially leave gaps in behind, but he won the ball on this occasion. So young, not that much experience, like only just over 100 senior games at club level to his name. At age 22, you'd probably expect a little more than that, probably. But on the other hand, like you say, he looks very, very much ready. Like the type of player that if he gets a chance at the first team, it's going to be difficult to take him out again afterwards, just because of the endeavour and the sort of the determination that he shows. So, yeah, you partner him with Van der Ven. There's a lot of aggression there, quite a lot of foot speed as well, and big monsters as well area.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely be interesting to see how his season goes next year. Next season, I should say. On to, I mean, you on yesterday's podcast mentioned you don't like this Belgian team, and as soon as I saw the starting 11, I was like, oh, that's not good for the number one team in all of existence, seemingly, in the FIFA rankings. I mean, I was going to say it's the first giant killing of the tournament, but when you see the teams, I mean, Slovakia's midfield was definitely better. The defence probably better. Is it that much of a giant killer in anything other than name?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's just names. I mean, if you said, "Oh, when you saw this Belgium team, I think you were being extremely kind." I mean, that's a shocker. It's absolutely rubbish for a team that's meant to be at the elite level. Like, I like a lot of the individual parts, as I said yesterday, like Onana in midfield with Oral Mangala should be quite good in theory, but you've got two players who are doing the exact same thing as each other. They want to go and win the ball wherever it is. Nobody's really that disciplined in terms of position in front of the defence. The centre-backs, I'm not speaking about workplace this season, I'm making a rule, right? So from today...
That's our player of the season.
It's just not happening. He's garbage. He's absolute rubbish. His positional play is atrocious. His decision-making over when to go for the ball, he's awful. He's Martin Skelter with hair. I'm not having whatever anybody else says about it. So Zina Debast, Dave has spoken about a few times, and you can see the technical abilities there with him, but he looks to me like the player who needs a really good leader beside him at the minute, which Buface isn't moving swiftly on from that. Again, I spoke about the imbalance yesterday. I was expecting them to go to wing-backs, Castagna and Doku. It ended up full-backs, Castagna and Carrasco, which is even more odd, shall we say.
Yeah.
There's a lot to sort out because there's so much talent in that squad. And you look at the players that they brought on, Bakayoko, Tielemans, Lugavacchio and Pen. That's four really, really good forwards in their own right. But, forwards, Tielemans and attack field, obviously, but they don't work together in the setup that they have at the minute. There's no balance. Obviously, there's a little bit of misfortune with offside calls going against them, but I think Slovakia and the fortune by the amount of defensive work they put in, the challenges everyone was putting in, the individual battles that they won all game long was just ridiculous. Like you say, not an overall like earth-shattering shock that Belgium didn't win a game. I think Slovakia totally won.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, what did you make of the handball? Do you think it was soft on the Openda assist?
Handball.
Yeah.
So if it's soft or not, if it touches his hand, then he goes and sets up the goal. It's handball. So don't really care.
Bears. This does leave the group pretty much wide open. Scroll down here. We're in Group E. So Romania currently top, Slovakia second, just on goal difference. Belgium third, Ukraine fourth. I mean, it's probably now the most open group. We got a couple more still to go. One more still to go, I should say. It feels like anyone could still go through.
Yeah.
Belgium, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. I mean, how off the first performance, how do you see that one going?
I mean, next round of games is obviously crucial because Romania have got their win out of the way. They haven't got to go out and get a result against Belgium now, which they will have seen as their most difficult game ahead of it. So I expect them to still play the same way, but if they make a couple of mistakes in defence, it's not going to matter so much. It matters much, much more to Belgium. So I wouldn't be massively surprised, let's say, after 2 rounds of games, if all 4 teams were on 3 points.
Yeah, I'd probably
Slovakia will think that they could beat Ukraine, obviously. So could definitely see them top.
Yeah, and to be fair, if Belgium play like they did yesterday, I think Romania would have a field day counter-attacking on that, to be fair. Next up, we had Austria against favourites France. France, I don't know if it's a shocking midfield. It's not midfield. Shocking team to line up with Deschamps in charge, but they didn't have any of the Real Madrid lads in midfield. Kanate was ill, seemingly, so they went with Saliba instead. Manyan was fit, which is obviously a boost for them. They did get the win, but it felt like a much more closely contested game than probably it should be on paper. I know Austria had a big uptick since... oh my God, what's his name? What's the manager's name? Ragnick, sorry. Yeah, they've obviously improved massively since he's there, but they are missing their key player as well in Alba, so it's a strange one. I wasn't overly impressed with France, but a win is a win.
Yeah, Austria were a lot better, let's say, first half in possession than probably France expected them to be, I would say. France did try to start the match very dominant, tried to move forward at the group and keep Austria penned in, and they were having none of it. Austria were very, very good first half, and if Baumgartner does lift that ball over Maignan and it's 1-0 Austria, that's a really, really tough position for France to come back from. And mentioned before the game yesterday, it was really the most interesting part of the day almost to see how Austria, how good they've been performing, how well they've been set up, come up against a much, much better side than they've really faced. So I think that they kind of passed that test even though they lost the game. You know what I mean? They will have absolute confidence that they can do stuff in this tournament, no doubt about that. France, after they did get the opener, which, you know, it was an own goal, it was not really one they created or anything like that, didn't really make too many openings other than later on when it started to get Mbappe pace against nobody in defence because Austria were chasing. Counter-attacking, they're fine with. We already know that. They've got loads of pace, loads of options off the bench for more pace. Like you say, I'm not sold on this midfield. Rabiot, I thought, had an all-right game, but he shouldn't have started. I think, to be honest, Camavinga's had a tremendous season. I don't know. I don't think you lose anything of Rabiot's passing by playing Camavinga instead, personally. So, a good start for France because they got the win. A bad start for France because they've lost Mbappe, probably for the second game. And we'll see, obviously, how it affects him beyond that. But yeah, overall, an eye-opener for both teams, I would say.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Mbappe's injury. I mean, it's a broken nose, but it does require surgery, so you probably have the full Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mask on as well as the face. Yeah, who's there next year? This app is crap I'm using, sorry.
You're on about France?
Yeah, so Netherlands. So they've got the tough game. Well, on paper, the tough game next. It is a big loss because I'm not sure how it'd work with the third place stuff, but they'll obviously want to finish top of the group, and this might be the decisive one.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. I didn't see anything from Poland to suggest that they will be troubling France, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
So, since you brought it up, may as well just say when teams finish level on points, the first thing that decides between them is head-to-head. Head-to-head result in that one game.
Okay.
So, yeah, it could determine first and second, but I don't think France will care too much, to be honest. Mbappe is obviously a huge miss, but if it's one game, they'd take it now in the group stage rather than in the 16s or the quarters. Let's put it that way. And like I said, they've got loads and loads and loads of depth. You put in Giroud, who's played 500 games for them, or you go with one of your many, many very fast attackers. Been playing up front all season.
Giroud it is with Deschamps.
Yeah, probably. It probably will be, let's be honest. We'll probably have a starting 11s with two giant number 9s of the old school starting up front in a game of the most modern schools of producing players. You know, it'll be Weghorst one end and Giroud the other, and that's just what we'll get with Koeman and Deschamps.
Very much so. Very much so. That group has obviously had everyone play a game now. How do you see it going? You mentioned Poland not being too impressive. They obviously did get a goal against Netherlands, but I'd probably say Austria looked more promising against France than Poland did against Netherlands. Yeah. And Netherlands, a bit blunt in attack, especially Depay missing a lot of chances, and getting the deflected goal through Cody.
I thought they were fine first half. They were very offensive-minded, created quite a lot, should have scored 3 before they eventually found the net, to be honest. So I think that they're okay as long as they keep that kind of thing going against the lesser sides. Like Austria, the big pressure is on them because they've played well but didn't get a result, and now they have to beat Poland, basically. So that's where that group is.
Yeah, but would you say that the two big nations are probably favourites to go through, and then maybe, if they can beat Poland, be one of the better third-place ones? That's probably how we see it going.
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, should be interesting. We'll move on to today's games. There's only 2, so if you're looking for the 2 o'clock kickoff, you're missing out. We'll start off with Turkey against Georgia. Maybe not the most interesting game on paper, but either was Romania-Ukraine, and that was quite fun, to be fair. How do you see this one going, and is there any names you want to pick out that are of interest?
Yeah, so Turkey are a nation that I've not been able to see, to be honest. So I am looking forward myself to watching them. There's a lot of players, obviously, that we know really, really well, and a lot of players who you want to keep an eye on. People like Arda Güler, he's expected to start. Yilmaz up front should be perfectly good, leading the line for them. It's a really talented Turkey team, but in terms of obviously international experience, they're not there, so this will be a really good start for them. Georgia are probably the nation I'm most looking forward to outside of the ones who I had seen, though. There's a whole bunch of players who we might not ever see, but this is obviously a huge tournament for them. They wouldn't have got through to the Euros without the alternative paths being there. But now they're there, they have a way of playing, they stick to it, and it is effective at times. Some of them, they are nobodies and they'll work hard and whatever. They play at very, very low level. Plenty of them in like Italian second division or play for Slovan Bratislava or one of the lower Greek teams, that kind of thing. But they also have a handful of players who are very good, very, very good. Obviously in goal, Georgi Mamardashvili is going to be one of them. He's had another really good season with Valencia. In attack, Kvaratskhelia is obviously their main player. But the one who I will look out for and the one who I think is going to be most key to them going through, because obviously everybody's going to be focused on Kvaratskhelia, they're going to man-mark him or they'll double up on him or whatever. That's going to make space for somebody else. George Mikatadze has to be that player. He's had a really, really good second half of the season with Metz. Ajax signed him last year, didn't use him, despite the fact they were crap in the first half of the year. Sent him back to Metz on loan, scored 13 goals across the second half of the season for a team who was going down without him, basically. He was really, really good. I expect that we will see him move on again this summer because they went down in a relegation playoff in the end, which he also scored in. But he is basically the other player who can create and score goals for Georgia. Really good ball carrier, can shoot from both feet, head down and run at defenders, or can link play nicely. I think he's a very, very talented player. So he's the one who I'm most looking forward to see and would pick out as a must-watch. Usually they would start both of them in attack, and it'll be a sort of lopsided or quite fluid 3-5-2, but they have gone with a back four at times, let's say, and then maybe shift Kvaratskhelia a bit wider or whatever. But I think Mikatadze, Mamardashvili, Kvaratskhelia, if they play well, they've got a good chance. Turkey look a very good side, though, so I'm not really sure how this game is going to go. I guess Turkey to win narrowly, but I'm really keen to see how Georgia deal with it.
I'm going to ask you to put a score on it. You can't just go narrowly.
2-1.
I was probably thinking something the same, even though I've not seen barely anyone.
It's a blind guess, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I've not seen Turkey, but we'll go with that based on names and setups.
Yeah, and this probably feels like the group. Obviously, Portugal should win the group, but it seems like the most open in terms of getting second place because Czech Republic's not exactly a classic squad. Turkey will either get to the semi-final or not win a game. That's how it goes. And Georgia is such an unknown, so yeah, it's a real open race for second place. Moving on to the I didn't give my prediction. I'll go 2-2. Why not?
What, Georgia?
Yeah. Czech Republic against Portugal then. As I mentioned, Czech Republic not in their best state, whereas Portugal, not a dark horse because I think they're above that, but they're seemingly like third favourite behind France and England, or seemingly in my mind they are. If they didn't play Ronaldo, I'd be probably at least second favourite. But Portugal should win every game in this group, I'd imagine.
Portugal should win every game in this group almost to nil. Like maybe Turkey, if they put it together, the group that they've got, the players that they've got, if they combine really well, maybe they can give them a bit of a game, but otherwise they should be winning 2-0 in every group stage game. Portugal's squad is really good. Portugal's team is almost really good, depending on who they pick in sort of 2 or 3 different spots, and obviously the form of some of those going in. I've seen that they maybe started Mendes and Cancelo at fullbacks and not Dalot. I think Dallow's been in ridiculously good form. I'm not really sure why he wouldn't be starting. Cancelo certainly wasn't.
I've never liked Cancelo, at least.
But look, regardless, they obviously have a setup. They have a way of playing. They've got really offensive-minded midfield and attacking group, so they should create plenty of problems. This Czech squad is decidedly second-rate. They've got 2 or 3 players who are decent, but I wouldn't even say that they are excellent. Like Patrick Schick is well spoken of, let's say, but I don't think he's that good personally. He's all right. Like he's a good forward, but that's as good as it would get for him. And he's 28 now. It's not like he's still coming through.
Yeah, and Dave always mentions Adam Hložek, who I simply know from Football Manager. I'm not
probably good on there as well.
Yeah, I don't think the Bayer Leverkusen move worked out too well so far, has it? I
mean, look, he plays a role. He's not a guaranteed starter for Czech Republic either. If they go with wing backs and back 3 against Portugal, he probably doesn't start there. But he has a role to play, doesn't he? And it's important for them to have different attacking options when inevitably Jan Kupska and Patrick Schick don't work together.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll focus on Portugal then before we go to predictions. Is Pepe going to be starting centre back again? It's always
he'd be starting till Euro 2070, wouldn't he, something.
Yeah. Obviously, Ruben Diaz didn't have the best season, but you mentioned Cancelo's probably going to start. Would you go with one of the young lads, or do you just expect Pepe and Diaz?
Yeah, Pepe and Diaz. I expect them to start. Would I go with someone different? I probably would, but I would have been doing so already, is the point. That maybe they haven't done that enough to now go and just do it on the opener of a tournament. Obviously, Gonçalo Inácio is probably the one you look at first, but I don't know. Antonio Silva's very highly rated, so I assume he'll get some game time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume at some point they will move on and actually make those two a pairing, but we'll see. It's Portugal.
Yeah, it is Portugal, and as you said, Pepe will outlive all of us. Indeed. The midfield's probably the interesting one. Obviously, attack has a lot of options, but it'll be Ronaldo and two other lads, probably. But the midfield, there's a lot of options. Maybe not the most balanced there, but it's going to be tough, probably getting in. Bruno Fernandes, you'd imagine, definitely starts. Bernardo Silva should definitely start. It's who do you go with him? I know you're a big fan of Vitinha, but it's the defensive-minded one you want there, and obviously the talent of someone like João Neves. It's a tough balancing act in this squad.
It is difficult to get the balance. I think this is a pretty classic case of you take all the options and then you choose accordingly to the game. Like against Czech Republic, Portugal are obviously going to have most of the possession. They need a bit more of a creative unlocker, let's say, as the second midfielder if Silva is in the front line, or you play Bernardo Silva in midfield and let him be that person and have an additional. So I'd say Palhinha and Fernandes are two locks, and then it's either Silva as the third or you play Silva right side of the attack in three. And if they do that, I would make Vitinha my second midfielder. I think he's had a really, really good season with PSG, and he has the combination of work rate, defensive off the ball, nous, and actual attacking abilities in an attacking midfielder. So I would play him if Silva's in the front line, but if they play Silva as that second midfielder, then tricky one. But maybe then you get away with playing like Leao left and Felix just kind of free from the right, or maybe they want a Jota there or whatever. So you've got options. I would assume they're going to start with Silva right side of the attack though. So hopefully it's Vitinha. That'll make it a bit more of a attack-minded, creative, and quite a combative game in that area of the pitch, I think.
I forgot Roberto Martinez as their manager. He's done well for himself, hasn't he? Predictions for this one. How much is Portugal winning by?
4-0.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if it's not comfortable. I'll say 3-0 to be slightly kinder. But that was the last game. Karl, anything else you want to mention before the timer goes?
Time has already gone. You just didn't hear it.
Okay, fantastic.
This is obviously the end of the first round of games. I think the whole lot has been pretty enjoyable so far. I'd say there's only been one day where I don't think it was like wildly exciting or anything like that. I think it's pretty... Sorry?
The England game it was.
Basically. I think most of the groups are nicely set up. Like there's obviously one or two teams who are comfortably better than their rivals, but I think we've got probably 4 of the 6 groups where you can definitely say who the second and third place is going to be. I think that's a pretty good place to go into the second round of games for.
Absolutely. And we'll finish off there. I think we're going to pre-record tomorrow, so if Portugal end up losing, we're going to look stupid here, but I don't care. And I'm not sure if we're going to do it instantly or it might be Dave or whatever. But we will be back tomorrow in whatever combination of us. Well, thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.